Whew. Fuck! Obviously, 2020 has sucked ass. The theater is one of my favorite places to be, and I would argue the best place to see a movie. In 2019, I was spoiled. I saw dozens of movies on the big screen, all with my amazing girlfriend, and I really thought the good times would roll on. But this year, despite our famous movie fanboy Prime Minister making it into one of 2020's most notorious films,
this led to other Africans becoming political leaders.
And the correct racist winning south of the border,
I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
we were still only able to see a few films in theaters this year, a couple at the beginning of the year, and a few in the summer when the cases were low enough that Nova Scotia reopened its theaters for a little bit, but it didn't last. So I, like many filmgoers and film studios, turned to streaming services to try and salvage this year. And while I would never pay $30 for another bastardized Disney animation classic with all the songs taken out, I did subscribe to Disney Plus and share the password with my parents in order to start paying back the decade of Netflix I've mooched. Between Disney Plus, Netflix, and Prime Video, I was still able to see many 2020 films, and I'm going to bend my rules a little this year to include a couple movies from the very end of 2019 that I only got to this year because they're so goddamn good. So here are my top 10 favorite movies from the hellish year we've had, and cheers to another unprofitable year for the morally bankrupt Walt Disney Corporation. Coming in at number 10 on my list is The Gentleman, directed by Guy Ritchie. Like most filmgoers of taste, I enjoy British culture at an arm's length, and ideally not set in the country's weird hat period. Sorry, Emma. That made The Gentleman, a crime thriller starring Matthew McConaughey as retiring drug lord Mickey Pearson, the perfect big blockbuster British film for me. The action slaps, the lads are chads, and it's all retold through the silky voice of Charlie Hunnam.
I should stab you with that fucking rolling pin.
Well, that right there is a good time. The Gentleman has some style, and some cringe, which I've been informed might not be cringe so much as mainstream British hip-hop culture, but
they call me Ghost, cause you never see me coming. It's over when you see Ghost.
Be warned. I really dug the action in this movie, and it's dumb fun I can't recommend enough, although I am very partial to Matthew McConaughey since I saw him in Interstellar, so that might be clouding my judgment a little bit.
But you do that already. Hop in.
But hey, it's on Netflix, check it out. At number 9 is The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, who co-wrote the screenplay with his brother, Max Eggers. The Lighthouse is essentially the 2-hour version of that Vine of the football coach asking, what's better than this?
Guys being dudes.
Filmed right here on the East Coast, The Lighthouse is a mind-warping dive into isolation and insanity that hit a little too close to home being viewed during the self-isolating year many of us had.
What made your last keeper leave?
He believed that there was some enchantment in the light. Went mad, he did. Tall tales. But
don't let the art house, black and white, 4:3 aspect ratio turn you off. There's so much depth, get it, to this perilous tale of two men trapped in their own little hell under the ever-watching eye of a lighthouse. William Dafoe wins my unofficial award for the most amazing facial expressions in a movie, most likely of all time, and I loved how easily and jarringly he could transition from endearing and funny to terrifying and bone-chilling in a single scene.
Daddy! Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow!
Robert Pattinson is cool too, a young foil to Dafoe's old madman vibes.
All right, have it your way.
I don't know how it ended. I don't think I fully understood everything that happened, but I definitely know that I loved it, and I think you would too. Chadwick Boseman's last two performances of his career were released in 2020. The first is as Storming Norman in Spike Lee's meandering Da 5 Bloods, a movie I struggled to get through, but that's no fault of Boseman. The second is as aspiring blues band composer and trumpeter Levy in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the 8th film on my list, which released posthumously this December and in so many ways adds to the bittersweet tone of Boseman's final performance. Directed by playwright George C. Wolfe, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom really feels like a play in how its scenes are set and its many monologues delivered. Across just a few sets, Boseman puts everything into each word, each movement. He slides across the room and pushes through every scene with such charisma and captivating delivery. I cannot believe he filmed this whole movie while he had stage 4 colon cancer.
I ain't gonna mess up nothing. Ma say.
I don't care what Ma say. I'm talking about what the intro gonna do to the song. The peoples in the North ain't gonna go for that old tit show nonsense. They wanna hear some music.
Carried by Boseman and an amazing cast in Viola Davis, Coleman Domingo, and the hilarious and heartbreaking Glynn Turman as Toledo, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is in no way an easy watch, and nor should it be.
When you come, you wanna be my man, bring it with you when you come.
I also can't help thinking how fitting that Boseman was able to get his acting career started at the Oxford Summer Program in 1998 because of donations from Denzel Washington, and ended his career in a film Denzel produced. It's almost poetic. This movie is a lot, and I recommend you take some time to check it out. Number 7 on my list is Soul, directed by Pete Docter, released on Christmas Day. It took Pixar 25 years, but they seem to have finally realized that black characters can exist outside of a side character whose sole purpose is comic relief. With Soul, the prolific animation studio has finally delivered a story not only about a black character and his lifelong dreams of becoming a famous jazz pianist, but a story about the black community that surrounds him.
Time job. Working man coming through.
Yeah, Mom, but
You're going to tell them yes, right?
Don't worry, Mom. I got a plan.
You always got a plan. Maybe you need to have a backup plan, too, for when your plan falls through.
A backup plan never hurts.
While they still won't let this black character be himself for a majority of the movie, presumably because black men aren't as marketable as cute bluish blobs or adorable as cats named Mr. Mittens.
No. I'm in the cat?
They only let audiences experience blackness through the lens of a white-coated perspective.
You're in my body. Wait.
in the
That's
cat?
my body.
I'm in a body.
They still delivered a visually stunning film exploring the dreams we set for ourselves and the challenging yet worthwhile process of re-examining who we are at all parts of life. Soul resonated with my girlfriend and I, touching on conversations we'd had many times about why we're doing what we do, what do we want out of life, and whether or not it matters if we know the answer to either.
It's alright, have a good time, 'cause it's alright, oh, it's alright.
I've always loved Pixar's standalone films more than their watered-down sequels, and Soul further cemented my belief that this studio is at their best when they're pushing new ground and exploring new perspectives, giving the mic to new voices. Okay, well, not new voices, it stars Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey, but new characters rather than cashing out on nostalgia. Rather than just listening to some dopey white guy talk about what he thinks about a movie about the black experience, I would recommend reading Charles Pulliam Moore's Soul feels like Pixar's first black movie made with white people in mind. It's a great read, and it helped me think about the purpose this movie served in the year it came out a lot more. Number 6 on my list is The Half of It, directed and written by Alice Wu. Pitched as a loose retelling of Cyrano de Bergerac, The Half of It is another cheesy, heartfelt teen rom-com that I've found myself enjoying more and more the further I get from my own high school years. For those who followed my top 10 movie lists in previous years, you'll remember the dumb fun I had watching Netflix's To All the Boys I Loved Before. And while that film had a sequel this year, I found myself more drawn to this high school rom-com instead. Starring Leah Lewis as Ellie Chu, a high schooler picking up the slack for her widower immigrant father, Ellie helps her dad pay the bills by writing papers for her peers, filling in for his job at the train station, and cooking small pies she can reheat in the evenings. She has a crush on a girl Aster in her class, but lacks the confidence to do anything about it. So when another classmate, Paul, asks Ellie to write love letters for him to give to Aster, she initially refuses until Paul offers to pay just like others pay for her papers. The tangle of love, lies, and growth that follow warmed the cockles of my cold, cynical heart. And maybe it'll do the same for you. The 5th movie on my list, and I've alluded to before, is Borat's subsequent movie film, directed by Jason Woliner. Lindsay Ellis argued in one of her last essays of this year that Borat as a character works even better in 2020 than he did in 2006. Truth be told, I didn't even see the first Borat until earlier this year when my friend Chris found out neither my girlfriend or I had seen it, and I got to see where all those memes and quotes I'd seen throughout my life came from. There's some truth to Ellis's argument. After the election of Trump and the complete breaking down of any legitimacy our political and cultural leaders, including Borat, actually have, there's no way to satirize a world like ours anymore. Not really.
Bodies with tough guy leaders across the world. Putin, Kim Jong-un, Bolsonaro, and Kenneth West.
So with Borat's subsequent movie film, Cohen and his new companion rip across the US of A, reminding us that these are just people. We're all just people, and how we treat one another matters. I kept thinking of this quote I heard on a podcast earlier this year while I was watching. The great unasked question in our public life is, given my role here, how should I behave? Given that I'm a journalist, a politician, a parent, what should I do in this situation? The question I bet people you most respect seem to ask in moments of decision, and the people who most drive you crazy and everything they do makes it clear they didn't ask that question in the first place. Everyone in this film either asks or doesn't ask this question, and these contrasts expose the division more than who they voted for. I think the lesson of this film is that we should all try to ask this question a whole lot more. Coming in at number 4 is Christopher Nolan's next big bombastic blockbuster, Tenet. Starring Robert Pattinson as Neil and John David Washington as, I kid you not, the protagonist, Tenet is one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. As hard drive editor Jeremy Kaplowitz has said again and again on Discord when I see Christopher Nolan come up, he just makes big, fun, goofy blockbusters. And I couldn't agree more. The common theme throughout Nolan's work is time. From Mementos to Tenet, I'm amazed he finds new ways to play with this theme in bigger and bigger budgeted ways. And while most of the shots in Tenet that I thought were really dope were basically just normal footage played at 1x reverse speed, I still hung on every shot like my cat when there's a bird on the screen. There are so many stupid lines in this movie that I've been pointing out on Twitter ad nauseum by now. I won't pretend the script isn't dumb as balls at times. To the point, I can say lines before the character on screen does, even on a first viewing. A habit I think pisses off my girlfriend more than anything else I do at the theater. But I simply do not care. The blockbuster is big, goofy and fun, and coincidentally stars another Robert Pattinson foil character I really, really loved. He's just killing it lately. Ooh, with that cute little scarf. Oof. Coming in at number 3 is Weathering with You, directed by
Makoto Shinkai.
I relentlessly mock the anime fans in my life for their poor choice in entertainment. It's not fair, and it's needlessly cruel, but they understand. After all,
Anime was a mistake.
But where underage girls in school skirts turn away many like me from anime shows, I've watched a few anime movies that have managed to really hit me in a way a real movie would. One such film was Comic Wave's 2017 bombshell, Your Name. So when I learned the studio's next film was releasing and actually showing in my local theater, I hopped on it without even seeing a trailer. Weathering with You didn't hit nearly as hard as Your Name, but it still sported an endearing and funny script, enjoyed best with subtitles of course, and magical animation that played with wet and water in some really beautiful ways. I'm out of my element in anime, and I think that might contribute to my enjoyment of the few I do watch, but even the anime aficionados in my life spoke highly of this film, so I'd encourage you to check it out, whether you're an anime skeptic like me, or weeb trash like several of my friends. Coming in at number 2, and bending my rules a little bit because, I don't know, it's my list and I'll just do whatever I want, are the 2020 Pixar shorts. I want to give a huge shout out to all the Pixar shorts released this year for being some of the most gorgeous, heartwarming bits of animation I had the pleasure of watching. Loop captures the frustration of trying to communicate with those who are different than us, and how it can be immensely rewarding to find common ground. Out is a rollicking good look at the struggle of being yourself with those you love most, and the fear they won't accept us.
In the eyes and say, Mom, Dad, I'm...
And Burrow, especially after the year we've endured, showed me that only through working together with those around us can we thrive. They're all on Disney+, and I hope you'll cuddle up to someone you love and watch them. And lastly, my number 1 favorite movie I saw this year, Uncut Gems, directed by the Safdie brothers.
This is me. This is how I win.
KJ, it's game night. You should be stretching out.
What is he, a coach?
Nah, he's just a fucking crazy-ass Jew.
It might not mean much for some when I say this, but gambling addict Howard Ratner is unequivocally Adam Sandler's best performance in his entire career. I think Sandler's been coasting on his few early hits and pumping out just abysmal Netflix movies in recent years, but he fucking nails it in this nerve-wracking, incredibly compelling roller coaster of stressful, tense standoffs and devilish cons. I did experience this film incredibly high, which may or may not have impacted my enjoyment of it, who's to say. I will never watch this film again so as to preserve my one perfect viewing experience, but I have it on good authority that this film still owns sober, so I hope you'll check it out if you like risky wagers and or want to understand all of the Adam Sandler memes you may not have understood this year. Oh, and that ending, come on!
You having a good time?
Yes.
What do you think, Mochi? Got something to say? Mochi says, "Death to the capitalists!"
Parasite.
Oh my god! Yeah! Oh my god!
Holy shit. Holy fucking shit.